this is kind of related to the panel more on the diversification of companies into new markets. And it goes back to what you mentioned about the Asia-PAC region and the eastern side of the globe, given that there's like 4.5 billion people there, 60% of the world's population. Now, I do understand that the income is a lot less than what would be in the Western world, but as you quite rightly stated, there's an emerging market there coming all the time with the growth of the middle class. How much of an increase in resources were there in the Asia-PAC region in the last 24 to 36 months? And secondly, I see from the figures there that it's up by 11% at 8% of our exports to the Asia-PAC. Is there a specific strategy now that you're looking and putting in place for Asia-PAC, given what's happened with Brexit? And thirdly, following on to the IDA, looking at FDI, competing with the UK for FDI. At the EU symposium recently, the British ambassador, Robin Barnett, mentioned that the UK were looking at increasing trade with Asia and looking towards more of a Singaporean model. So that would put us maybe in direct competition with them for foreign direct investment, as was mentioned earlier on. And is there a strategy around that to attract Asian companies back into Ireland and actually compete against the UK? So there would be, what is the strategy between Enterprise Ireland and the IDA in the joined-up thinking there?
Thank you, Deputy.
Who wants to take those questions?
Well, firstly, Deputy, just in terms of our resources in Asia-PAC region, even though we, obviously, like any other agency, we reduced our resources over the last 5, we increased them in the Asia-Pacific region. We allocated an additional 10 within Asia-PAC region over the last 36 months. We also have a resource in Ireland here called a High Growth Markets Team, which is focused on assisting companies prepare for tackling those markets. So that's our resources, and we have 8 offices in those markets at the moment, and we have 39 people. We also have a network of what we call pathfinders or trade consultants, which are a variable cost to us, people with specific expertise in certain sectors, which we support companies to utilise. In terms of that market, the Asia-PAC region is obviously it's a region that's growing. If you look at exports to that region, they've grown by 70% over the last 4 years. The number of companies, of clients of ours that are exporting to that region is about 620 companies. That's a 15% increase in the same period. It is a region that requires very sharp focus, because while it's a big region with strong growth rates, timescales to secure business in that market is also longer than other established markets, and the commitment of boots on the ground is critical to that, not just by Enterprise Ireland but by companies. So it's not an either-or that we would go after Asia Pacific and not go after other established markets. So the US and Europe are very important markets, and one of the things we did was we were very clear that we weren't going to take resources from those established markets and put them into high growth markets. It had to be additional resources. Just today we have an international education trade mission led by Minister Bruton out to China. Next month we have a trade mission to China and Japan. We have recently had Minister Murphy has returned from a trade mission on the financial services area. So it's a constant focus for us in terms of trade missions and trade activities. Obviously high-level ministerial-led missions are particularly important in those regions where government-to-government interaction is so important. But it's not to take away from other markets. Like last year, the growth rate of Irish indigenous companies to the US was 27%. So it's about focusing on both, not just either-or. In relation to the FDI side, part of our activities in that market, Enterprise Ireland has responsibility for food, and part of our trade missions to that area has been focused on food, and we recently had Minister Creed out there in terms of a food and agri-tech mission, and FDI is a key part of that. And in terms of Ireland in that area, the Chinese, for instance, are very interested in the whole area of baby infant formula, because they've had a big issue associated with that and scares in terms of quality of product from their own producers. So I don't know whether my colleague in IDA, Mary, might want to comment on the FDI aspect that you asked.
Certainly. From our perspective, we have 6 locations in ASIA-PAC. We're in 6 locations. We have 9 offices there. So we're in India, in Bangalore and Mumbai, in Japan. We have a representation in Singapore, in Korea and in Australia. So we are very well represented there, and we have been marketing in Asia over the past 6 years, and it is a market that we have had some wins in, and one that we're very, very focused on. Companies like Hawaii, Sumitomo, ICBC, to name but a few, are some of the companies that we have attracted here. From a Singaporean perspective, many of the companies that are located there from an FDI perspective are broadly similar in the sense that they are subsidiaries of corporates that are located in other parts of the world targeting the Asian market. So in the same way that many of their companies there would also have operations in Ireland. So Singapore is indeed a competitor of ours for activities, but we have a presence there actively promoting Ireland as a location.